Thank you very much for allowing me to speak this evening, and particularly on this topic which is near and dear to my heart, the BC Supreme Court win. So I'd like to take you through some of the history of this win and share some of the information that I think are highlights. It is a landmark victory. It's been called that in the newspapers, it's been called that in radio and talk shows, and it's been called that by teachers all across the province. The BCTF has stood up again and again to defend our charter rights, and teachers everywhere, even in countries where they risk their very lives to oppose government, have been sending congratulations to the BCTF. And I speak in particular of our strong relationship with the unions in Mexico and Peru. Why, you might ask, are people in other countries interested? And that's mainly for two reasons. Union solidarity means that an injury to one is an injury to all, and a victory by one that holds a promise of a better tomorrow for many can also be celebrated by everyone else. And the protection of free collective bargaining rights is a cause that is worth celebration. Does it present challenges? Yes, of course it does, and it has to us as well. In 2002, the then Minister of Education, Christy Clark, tabled Bills 27 and 28. And in 2004, the BC Supreme Court quashed the arbitration process that had been implemented to strip those contracts. Despite that, the government went ahead and passed Bill 19 to remove all the provisions from the collective agreements that we have continued since then to fight for the restoration of. In 2007, healthcare workers won a landmark decision in the Supreme Court of Canada upholding the right to free collective bargaining. In that particular court case, the BCTF had what is called intervenor status, so that we had access to all documents and we were able to contribute to that court case. It was a decision and a strategic decision to allow the healthcare workers to go first and for the BCTF to follow later. Therefore, in November of 2010, the BCTF challenged Bills 27, 28, and 19 in the BC Supreme Court. In April of 2011, the BC Supreme Court ruled, and what they stated was that Bills 28 and 19 were in fact unconstitutional and that they violated the charter rights of teachers. In March of 2012, the BC Liberal government then passed Bill 22, the Education Improvement Act, Bill 28 in effect in new clothing, perhaps the Emperor's clothing, with the same chilling effects. In September of 2012, undaunted, the BCTF returned once again to the BC Supreme Court seeking restoration for the stripping of their collective agreement and to argue at that time that Bill 22 is also unconstitutional. We are nothing if not tenacious. We come back to January 27th, 2014, and Madam Justice Griffin found that government did not negotiate in good faith with teachers, and that government simply duplicated its unconstitutional legislation from 2002 that was declared unconstitutional in 2011. At that point, we declared it win number 3. During that time, there have continued to be challenges. On January 27, 2014, the court ruling also endorsed the value of collective bargaining. And the collective action by workers helped protect individuals from unfairness in one of the most fundamental aspects of their lives, their employment. The government's response to Madam Justice Griffin's ruling was quite predictable. They filed an appeal on February the 4th, and a stay on February the 14th. The appeal, of course, will likely be granted. The appeal hearing has already, the appeal dates most likely will be heard in May or June of this year, and the stay has actually been heard already on February the 14th. So, looking forward, we have to say that, I'm going to go back a moment. I had the opportunity to be in the court during the presentations for the stay, and able to hear some of the documents that were presented. Langley did also present a document from this board to the courts, and it was, I presume, directed by government to talk about the challenges that would present to the board should the language be reinstated. And there's no question that there will be challenges. You can't take $275 million a year out of an education budget, reinstate that language, and expect that things will go smoothly. Challenges, of course, are going to be there. We also presented a response to that by the Langley Teachers Association, and I'd like to say that we feel that we can move forward. During the time that I've been in Langley, School District 35 has had to close schools and has had to close programs. Every year, teachers are released, there are reductions, people are redirected. We hire staff, we open programs, we close programs, we reconfigure schools, we open new schools, and we fund new initiatives. Whenever the board has made a decision to move forward with any particular program, a way has always been found to do it. I would suggest that now that this language has been passed in the Supreme Court, and has been passed not once, but twice, and now a third time, that it's time for us to work together and find a way to make this language move forward as well. Because I believe there are some gifts that come with this ruling. Smaller classes equal more classroom teachers, and that's a good thing for students, despite the fact that the Minister of Education, Peter Fassbender, said on his CBC interview, all the research that I've seen clearly suggests that class size has nothing to do with outcomes. I would suggest he hasn't been in a public education classroom lately. There are other gifts of the ruling. A comprehensive study on class size made by educational researchers Bruce Bidler and David Berliner in 2002 showed that the smaller the class size, the better the average student performs on academic achievement tests. And the gains from smaller class sizes are stronger the longer a child is exposed to them. An excellent reason to get going on this. The continued gifts of giving that are given to us by this court ruling are the limits on class composition, which of course is the number of students identified with special needs who are placed in the same class. And just as smaller class sizes are a benefit to all students, a lower number of students needing additional assistance allows the teacher to better meet the learning needs of all students. We talk again about the gifts of the ruling, the restoration of supports to students by specialist teachers as a result of a return to the 2002 ratios. This would mean that Langley District would have more counselors, more special education and resource teachers, more teacher librarians, more ELL teachers, more learning assistance teachers, science and home ec teachers, industrial education teachers. During the time since this contract language has been stripped, we have lost 1,600 specialist teachers province-wide and $275 million per year. It's going to take some time, it's going to take some work, there will be challenges to put these things back in place. But in accompaniment with the class size regulations and the class size rulings and the specialist ratios, we also have resolution procedures and a joint consultative process to address issues regarding student placement, which engage both teachers and administrators. We have the restoration of a defining mainstreaming and integration process, and the restoration of school-based teams with resources to provide release time to meet and to gather student information and to consult with colleagues. It's government statement that replacing teachers will cause irreparable harm to the public interest of an unprecedented magnitude. And I would suggest that they are referencing that to financial concerns or political concerns. But I think, again, considering the numbers of times that the BCTF has won this case in court, it's time to move on and for this government to begin to make priorities that really address their family first motto. Not replacing teachers will cause irreparable harm to the public interest by failing to provide the best possible public education system at the highest level to the most children to adequately prepare them to participate in and advance a truly democratic 21st century in Canada. And Langley teachers need to know that their district leadership team is behind them, working for them and working with them. Langley teachers need to know their Board of Education supports their landmark victories and is prepared to work with them to face the joyful challenges associated with restoring educational services to children. tenacious, articulate, focused, and moving forward. That was actually one of my slogans when I was running for the BCTF executive, and it's my promise to the teachers of Langley and to this board today, because I intend to do my very best to ensure that all of the challenges to retroactively restoring our collective agreement are overcome, and therefore I invite all of you to work with all of us. Thank you, and I'll leave the rest. I'll read this one last one, if I may. We all need to be on the side of the courageous, those who are standing up across the province. Trustees, superintendents, teachers, parents, and educational advocates to ensure that political agendas do not hamper the real goal of public education, equal access to a quality public education system. And I thank you for your time and your attention.